What is up, everybody? It's ABL213 back here with another video, and since the NFL draft is coming up in about a month, I decided to take a look back at every NFL team's worst draft bust. And my definition for a bust is underperforming at their picked in the first, second, or third round, and only played 1 to 3 seasons with that team, or didn't play for the team at all, and got cut or traded before the season started. And I will not be counting if they did good with another team, only the team that drafted them. And I tried not to label someone as a bust if their career was ruined by injury, like Robert Griffin III, and also I avoided people who had career-ending injuries. And with that out of the way, let's get started. Let's kick things off with the NFC North. And first up is the Vikings. Demetrius Underwood, defensive tackle. He was taken 29th in the 1999 draft, and he had a lot of red flags surrounding him at the draft, but the Vikings took him anyway, and he made it through a whole one training camp practice before leaving the team. And he had very short stints with the Dolphins and the Cowboys, and his career lasted just 2 seasons in the NFL. Packers, Tony Mandarich, right tackle. He was taken 2nd overall in the 1989 draft, and his first 2 seasons were solid, but he was selected ahead of 3 future Hall of Famers and an NFL legend. The Hall of Famers are Barry Sanders, Deion Sanders, and Steve Atwater. And the NFL legend is Derek Thomas, and he only lasted 3 seasons with the Packers. His career lasted 6 years, but he took some time off and came back into the NFL in 1996 when he returned with the Colts. And also, I think he hung out a little bit too much with Barry Bonds. Lions, Andre Ware, quarterback. He was taken 7th overall in the 1990 draft. He played 14 games and only started 6 of them, where he had 1,112 yards, 5 touchdowns to 15 turnovers, and he only lasted 4 years in the league, and he spent all of them with the Lions. Bears, Cade McNown, quarterback. He was taken 12th in the 1999 draft, and he started 15 out of 25 games, and he went 3-12 in those games. He had 3,111 passing yards, 16 touchdowns to 19 interceptions, and only lasted 2 seasons in the league. And a close second was taking Trubisky over Mahomes and Deshaun Watson. And to kick it off for the NFC South, we have the New Orleans Saints and Russell Explerben, I think is how you pronounce it, kicker/punter. He was taken 11th overall in the 1979 draft. He made 4 out of 8 attempted field goals and had a career long of 38 yards. But he did go 7 for 7 on extra points. He did have 11,381 punting yards in his career, but that is way too high for a kicker or a punter. He was taken over Hall of Famers tight end Kellen Winslow and quarterback Joe Montana. He lasted 5 years with the Saints before taking 4 years off and coming back for 1 year with the Lions where he had 1 punt. And the Buccaneers, I have 2 players, Bo Jackson and Roberto Aguayo. And I picked Bo Jackson because he never played a down for the Buccaneers, and he was taken with the first pick in the 1986 draft, and he told the Buccaneers to not draft him, and if they did, he would go play baseball. And the Buccaneers drafted him, and he went to go play baseball. He played for the Kansas City Royals, Chicago White Sox, and the California Angels. And the second player, Roberto Aguayo, was taken in the 2nd round of the 2016 draft, and he lasted 1 season with the Buccaneers and went 22 of 31 on field goals with a long of 43 and 32 of 34 on extra points. And he's here for the same reason that Russell Explerben is. The 2nd round is just way too high for a kicker to go. Panthers, Jimmy Clausen, quarterback. He was taken with the 48th pick in the 2010 draft. He lasted only 4 seasons in the league and 2 seasons with the Panthers, where he was benched in 2011 for the 1st overall pick in Cam Newton. In his 1 starting season, he started 10 of 13 games and went 1-9 as a starter. He had 1,558 passing yards, 3 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. Falcons, Tony Smith, running back. He was taken 19th overall in the 1992 draft. He lasted 3 seasons in the league, all with the Falcons, and he started 6 out of 33 games. He had 329 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 14 receiving yards, and they all came during his rookie year. And now we go to the NFC East, where we started off with the Dallas Cowboys. Bobby Carpenter, linebacker. He was taken 18th overall in the 2006 draft. During his stint with the Cowboys, which lasted 4 years, he started 3 out of 58 games, and he had only 3.5 sacks and 99 tackles. Giants, Joe Don Looney, running back. He was taken with the 12th overall pick in the 1964 draft, and he was a giant headache for the Giants. He was fined a bunch of times for dress code violations and not showing up to practice, and he would be traded only 25 days after being drafted, never playing a snap for the Giants, and his career lasted only 5 years in the league. Eagles, Jay Berwanger, running back. The first ever Heisman winner also ended up being the first ever draft pick. He was taken with the first overall pick in the 1936 draft. And unfortunately for the Eagles, they could not agree on a contract, and he never played a down for the Eagles. He ended up trying out for the Olympics instead. Washington, Andre Johnson. Not the wide receiver, the offensive tackle. He was taken with the 30th pick in the 1996 draft. And he makes this list because Washington traded up to get him, and they didn't even play him his rookie year, and then cut him the next season. So he never played a down for Washington. So now let's go over to the NFC West, starting with the Rams. Jesse James, not the tight end, the offensive tackle. He was taken with the 62nd overall pick in the 1995 draft, and he played in 2 games with the Rams, won his rookie year and won his second season, and he didn't start in either of them. Cardinals, Levi Brown, offensive line. He was taken with the 5th pick in the 2007 draft. He played 6.5 seasons with the Cardinals. He was traded in his 7th season to the Steelers. He only played 1 game for the Steelers. During his stint with the Cardinals, he gave up 55 sacks and 303 pressures, but he did start 79 out of 82 games in his career. Seahawks, Dan McGuire, quarterback. He was taken with the 16th pick in the 1991 draft. He started 5 out of 13 games in his 5-year career. He had 745 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 6 picks. And another thing that puts him on this list is that his coach at the time, Chuck Knox, didn't want to draft him, but the owner, Ken Burring, wanted McGuire. Oh, and the guy that Chuck Knox wanted to draft was just some unknown guy named Brett Favre. 49ers, A.J. Jenkins, wide receiver. He was taken with the 30th pick in the 2012 draft. He lasted 1 year in San Francisco and played in 3 games. He started 0 and had 1 target, 0 catches, 0 yards, and 0 touchdowns, and only lasted 3 years in the league, spending his last 2 seasons with the Chiefs. And now we will head over to the AFC North, kicking it off with the Ravens. Kyle Buller, quarterback. He was taken with the 19th pick in the 2003 draft. He lasted 5 seasons with the Ravens and started 42 out of 53 games and went 20 of 22. He had 45 touchdowns to 44 interceptions and was repeatedly benched for Steve McNair. Steelers, Huey Richardson, defensive end. He was taken with the 15th pick in the 1991 draft and played 16 games in his career and not starting a single one. He lasted 1 year in Pittsburgh and then was traded to Washington and then the Jets. So he was on more teams than years that he lasted in the league. Browns, Johnny Manziel, quarterback. He was taken with the 22nd pick in the 2014 draft. He lasted only 2 seasons in the league, both with the Browns, and he started 8 out of 14 games, went 2-6, had 1,675 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. He went to the CFL and is now in the FCF, the Fan-Controlled Football League. Bengals, Akili Smith, quarterback. He was drafted 3rd overall in 1999. He played 4 seasons and all 4 of them were with the Bengals. He started 17 out of 22 games, going 3-14. He had 2,212 passing yards, 5 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. And one thing that boosted him on this list is that the Bengals turned down the Ricky Williams deal from the Saints. And if you don't know, the Ricky Williams deal was when the Saints head coach, Mike Ditka, traded his entire draft just for Ricky Williams. In total, the trade was 8 draft picks for the 5th overall pick in the 1999 draft. And to add insult to injury to the Saints, their first-round pick for 2000 turned into the 2nd overall pick. Texans, Kevin Johnson, cornerback. He was drafted 16th in 2015. He started 18 out of 35 games, and spent 4 seasons with Houston and had 128 tackles, 0 sacks, and only 1 interception. Colts, Jeff George, quarterback. He is the first overall pick in the 1990 draft. He lasted 4 years with the Colts and started 42 out of 52 games and went 14-35. He had 9,551 passing yards, 41 touchdowns to 49 interceptions. Jaguars, Justin Blackmon, wide receiver. 5th overall selection in the 2012 draft. He started 18 out of 20 games and had 1,280 receiving yards, 6 touchdowns, and 22 rushing yards. He is on this list because he only lasted 3 seasons in the league and only played 2 of them in Jacksonville. Because of his short career, in being suspended in 2013, he got a 4-game suspension for violating the league's substance abuse policy, and after his 4-game suspension, he was suspended indefinitely from the NFL, and his career came to an end in 2014. Titans, Chris Henry, running back. He was taken 50th overall in the 2007 draft. In Tennessee, he started 0 out of 10 games, had 122 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 53 receiving yards, and those all came during his rookie year. And he lasted 3 years with the Titans, and besides his rookie year, he had 1 rush and 3 yards in 2 years, and his career only lasted 4 years. And now let's go over to the AFC East, starting with the Patriots. Bob Kreider, right guard. He was drafted 18th in the 1978 draft. He did last 6 years with New England, but the reason he's on this list is because he wasn't played. In New England, he started 36 out of 75 games, and you do not pick a player at 18th overall and play him for 36 games unless he just is not capable of starting. Bills, Tom Cousineau, quarterback, but he played linebacker in the NFL. He was drafted with the 1st overall pick in the 1979 draft. He never played a snap in Buffalo because a CFL team, the Montreal Alouettes, offered him twice the money that the Bills were offering him. But something good did come out of this. When he was traded to the Cleveland Browns, one of the draft picks were used to draft Jim Kelly, so I guess it ended up working out for the Bills. Jets, Vernon Gholston, defensive end. He was the 6th overall pick in the 2008 draft. He lasted only 3 seasons in the league, and all 3 of them were with the Jets. He started 5 out of 45 games. He had 42 tackles and 0 sacks. Dolphins, Pat White, quarterback. Selected with the 44th overall pick in 2009, he started 0 of 13 games in his career, and his career was only 1 season with the Dolphins, where he had 21 rushes, 81 yards, and 0 touchdowns. Pat White will forever be remembered as one of the most electrifying college players that can never make it to the NFL. And now it's time for our final division, the AFC West. Let's start it off with the Raiders. Jamarcus Russell, quarterback, widely regarded as one of the worst bust or the worst bust in NFL history. He was drafted with the 1st pick in the 2007 draft. He started 25 of 31 games, went 7-18, had 4,083 yards, 18 touchdowns to 23 picks, and he only lasted 3 years in the league. All 3 of them ended up being with the Raiders. Chargers, Ryan Leaf, quarterback. He is also brought up when you talk about the worst draft picks in NFL history, and he was taken with the 2nd pick of the 1998 draft. He lasted 3 years in the league and 2 years with the Chargers. He started 18 of 21 games and went 4 of 14. He had 3,172 passing yards, 13 touchdowns to 33 interceptions. And one of the main reasons he had such a short stint in the NFL, obviously because he wasn't that good, but another was his character, and that he constantly just got on teammates and coaches' nerves. Chiefs, Todd Blackledge, quarterback. He was drafted with the 7th overall pick in the 1983 draft. He played 5 years with the Chiefs. He started 24 out of 40 games and went 13-11. And he had 4,510 yards, 46 touchdowns, and 32 interceptions. And those stats are just not worthy of being the 7th overall pick. And finally, we have the Denver Broncos, Paxton Lynch, quarterback. He was drafted with the 26th overall pick in the 2016 draft, and he lasted 2 seasons in the league. Both were with the Broncos. He started 4 out of 5 games and went 1-3 for 792 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions. and I'm convinced he was picked because of John Elway's addiction to drafting tall, white quarterbacks that resemble himself. And to add insult to injury, in 2017, Paxton Lynch was beaten out of the 7th round selection, Trevor Siemian, for the starting job.